Hello, good day, how are we? Hope you're keeping safe, hope you're keeping sane. Not totally sure why I started with a good day. Maybe it's because of Peter Andre being in the news so much over the last couple of days, and maybe I've got a bit of an Australian twang. But anyway, if we put that nonsensicalness to one side for a moment, I want to talk today about money and happiness and gambling and pleasure and all of that sort of good stuff. But firstly, what I want to very quickly do is say thank you to all of you who have watched, liked and supported my most recent video. For those of you who haven't, the last video I made and published on the channel was about watches. Nothing to do with gambling. Complete one-off, out the blue kind of video from me. Just sort of thought I'd talk about something else for a change, really, and the support's been overwhelming. Thank you very much. It was a bit nerve-wracking putting it out. To be honest, I thought I might lose a load of subscribers and people might dislike it, and they'll basically tell me to shut up and nobody cares and to stick to what I know. But no, actually, the response has been very positive, and I very much appreciate that. So, let's talk about Monte Carlo, and let's talk about, more specifically, probably the Monte Carlo Casino. Now, Monte Carlo Casino is situated in Monaco, and it is a very impressive building. It is featured in many films, including a couple of James Bond films. I think it's in the Ocean's films as well. And, it's kind of seen as the sort of pinnacle of gambling glamour. Two words I don't believe should ever really sit in the same sentence, but it is. It's it's the place where you see all the Ferraris and stuff parked outside, and all the blokes in tuxedos, and the high stakes roulette, and all the rest of it, and all the dancing girls, and all the fancy champagne and cocktails, and all that sort of stuff, right? If you think of gambling and glamour, this is the epitome of it. But not only that, it is very much a visual and physical representation of the very old adage that money doesn't buy happiness. Now, I will preempt any discussion about money buying happiness with the following disclaimer, because it's something that I have experienced many times due to my love of gambling, you see. Money doesn't necessarily buy happiness. However, a lack of money, a shortage of money, can certainly cause an awful lot of stress and unhappiness. You can see by the emotion that I've been there, and I've done it, and I've experienced it, and it is horrible. Bouncing direct debits, not knowing whether you're going to be able to pay your rent, not sure you've got enough money for food, having to turn down, more frivolously, social occasions because you don't literally have, 2 pennies to rub together because you've basically gambled all your wages and you've got to wait now until you get paid again. A lack of money, not being able to cover your expenses is a massive, massive cause of unhappiness and of stress. However, what I'm talking about here is having an abundance of available capital, of abundance of money, and how that doesn't buy happiness, and how Monte Carlo, and in particular the Monte Carlo Casino, is a real physical representation and example of this. You get two types of people fundamentally in Monte Carlo. Now, I'm discarding for now people like myself or any of you guys who have visited, and I'd recommend it. It's a beautiful place. The casino is a great piece of architecture. Obviously, if you've got a gambling addiction, maybe stay on the outside or don't take any money in with you. But anyway, I'm not talking about tourists and people who are going there to experience it and to see it. I'm talking about the people who live there, or at least live there part-time. These will generally fall into two categories of people. The people with vast inherent wealth, people who have wealthy families, people who are royalty, people who have had money given to them and fundamentally have probably never done a day's work in their life. And they see this millionaire's playground as the place to go and spend someone else's hard-earned money. The other type of people you get there are the ones that have strived, have worked their arses off, maybe still are, built businesses, built corporations, created employment and done all of this good stuff, and have finally thought, right, now is the time to go and relax, enjoy the fruits of my labours and avoid tax at the same time, which is, double whammy, isn't it, really? So let's look at this second group of people first, paradoxically, right? Let's look at the people who have made their money. These are people who are driven individuals, typically, people who have built businesses, built enterprises, worked their arse off to progress in every form of life and achieve financial freedom, financial success and true wealth. These are people who have worked very, very hard to hit targets they've set for themselves, have had motivation to build new things, to achieve new things, and to push themselves and succeed in the best possible way they can. They're now taking this money and they're going to relax and they're going to enjoy all the pleasures that somewhere like Monte Carlo can provide. And that includes, of course, the casino. If you're one of these driven individuals, then you will find that the pleasure of pleasure is insanely short-lived. If you're someone who has constantly worked to targets and worked to excel in every part of your life, then you'll suddenly find this lack of direction, this lack of challenge, incredibly disorienting. It's well known that when Olympians win gold medals at Olympic Games, it is often the lowest point of their lives. It often causes significant depression in these professional athletes because this is the moment, this is the thing, this is the target that they have been striving for their entire professional lives, and now they have achieved it. And after you've won your gold medal, you get given it and you have to go back to the Olympic Village or to a hotel, and you sit there and you realise that, what do I do now? Where do I go? And this is quite a well-known phenomenon, and it happens a lot, particularly with people who sell their companies. Maybe their exit strategy was to get X amount of million or billion for their companies. They sell them, and then they get that what now feeling. And this is the embodiment of Monte Carlo and of Monaco. And the reason that pleasure is short-lived is because pleasure by its very nature is incredibly transient. And of course I talk a lot about gambling, but if you think of all the pleasures that money may buy you, the things that people think they'll buy when they win the lottery, the life they envisage for themselves, the fast cars, the cocktails on the beach, the flashy holidays, all of this sort of stuff, nothing there provides any form of long-term happiness. Of course, there is pleasure to be derived from fast cars, drink, drugs, sex, all of these things, gambling, all the rest of it, right? It would be remiss of me to not acknowledge that there is very, very high levels of pleasure, endorphin and dopamine-based pleasure, to be associated with these things that often only money can purchase. However, with a complete lack of direction, without these pleasures, without these status symbols and all of these fun, pleasurable things being used as a self-reward mechanism, they are incredibly shallow. And not only are they not necessarily beneficial, they're not desirable. Every pleasure that you partake in, anything chemical in your brain that is going on as a result of either a substance or an activity that you are consuming, raises your base level of pleasure, real base level of happiness, which means you need more and more and more of this to get any kind of sense of pleasure and fulfillment. A man much cleverer than me, and I apologise that I don't remember who it is, said this: if you're used to cooking all your own food or maybe getting the occasional takeaway, and you go to a very high-end restaurant and you get a steak, it's a 9 out of 10 steak, almost perfect, absolutely lovely. You will enjoy every single bite of it and it will be an amazing experience. If you go to high-end Michelin star restaurants every night of the week and your steak is a 9 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10, then you will focus on whatever has caused it to lose that 1 point. Terribly repeated analogy, but you get my point. If you're used to having the finest of everything in life, then you will only ever see the negatives. And so this is why when you go to the Monte Carlo casino, it is the unhappiest and one of the most depressing places on earth. Aside from the tourists, the people who are there, the residents, or at least the part-time residents who are in that casino, are chasing something. If they are these hard-working, retired business people, entrepreneurs who have built and built and built and pushed themselves all their lives, they are using short-term pleasure to try and recreate that feeling of achievement, that feeling of success that they may have had in their professional careers. If they are the second group of people, who I'll talk about fleetingly, who have had everything bestowed upon them in a financial sense, they either inherited or just have a bloodline that has untold wealth, they will spend their entire lives using pleasure to try and replace any kind of satisfaction and achievement and indeed struggle that is the underpinnings and is the basis of long-term happiness. Pleasure is not always desirable. Happiness is an end goal and is a byproduct of suffering and struggling and pushing yourself to achieve something. When I was gambling every day and I was drinking every day, that to me was my only goal. I had to have that short-term pleasure in order to feel anything at all. I had no other goals. I had no direction. Yes, I had a job and maybe I was doing some other bits on the side. But my attention to them, my desire to grow them, my desire to push myself and improve was totally undermined and squashed by this constant seeking of pleasure, basically of a dopamine hit sufficient to tip me just above that base level that I'm sitting at, and that base level that was rising and rising and rising with every gamble, with every drink. If you've never had to work in your life, if you've never had to strive for anything, your base level is by its default always going to be much higher. You've not had to struggle, you've not had to achieve, you've not had to push yourself to get any rewards in life. Everything there is laid out in front of you. And if you can just for one moment, as I have done, put yourself in that position, what would you do today? If you had all the money in the world, what would you do today? Well, okay, let's be honest. I'll use my own example. Right, if I had all the money in the world, there's a Land Rover dealer just around the corner from me. Go and buy myself a nice new Range Rover. I don't live too far from Colchester, so I'd go to the Ferrari dealer there, maybe get myself a Ferrari, have a little look at houses, and then go out for a nice posh dinner, drink some really expensive, no, I wouldn't drink really expensive champagne. I'd probably just have a pint of Stella because that's what I like. But anyway, that would be great, wouldn't it? Flash cars, big house to move into, all the drink and whatever you want. You could have some of that, all right? You can fill in the blanks yourself, right? And then what to do tomorrow? Well, probably much the same. Maybe go shopping, go to Flannels, go and buy some new clothes, get all that sort of stuff. Yeah, brilliant. And then the next day, and how many days could you do this before your underlying level of pleasure is so high? What are you going to do now? What now? What is there to try and achieve? And that's why you end up filling your life with empty pleasures in order to pursue something, because you've never had to pursue something. I'm massively rambling now. Sorry, the point of this video was, right, that if you go to the Monte Carlo casino, and I recommend you do, it's a lovely building. Like I say, don't take any money, obviously, and don't gamble. I recommend going to see it. It's a lovely building, but just look at the people there. They are depressed. They are directionless. And these are often some of the previously most hardworking, most driven, and most ambitious people in the world. But using pleasure to replace success, replace satisfaction, and replace happiness is only going to end in absolute disaster. And even if it doesn't end in financial ruin, maybe these people have got billions, it's going to end up with you being unfulfilled and possibly having other addictions alongside your gambling or your drinking or whatever. Hope that makes sense. Bit of a ramble, but I think that the point is that if you are, thinking about when you can next experience pleasure, rather than thinking, right, what can I do to improve X, Y, Z, and I'm still very guilty of doing this, by the way, then you will never actually experience happiness. You'll just, you'll basically just experience very short periods where the boredom of life and the struggle of life is alleviated through brain chemicals. Stay safe and sane, guys. All the best. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you soon.